love the back and forth between the Republicans and the Democrats. It really shows the divisiveness and their tactics. They say, look at them and what they're doing, but don't look at us. We're doing the same thing. Hillary in Russia, Trump in Russia. The Democrats got one, the Republicans got the other. What is going on, Justin?
What's going on, man?
Good to
Good
have you,
morning to you.
brother. Good morning.
Thanks. Good to be here.
So tell me what your perspective was on the 10-hour circus yesterday.
That's exactly what it was, the circus. I don't know. Uh, my biggest frustration with the political landscape of today is you don't know who to believe. Um, and I don't really mean myself because I sort of have the luxury of time to be able to do the necessary research to get past the talking points and the chatter. But to the average citizen out there in the country, um, they don't have the time, and they're just catching the news highlights, 60-second clips of everything that took place throughout the day. You have one side saying no, they're wrong, the other side saying no, they're wrong, they were telling the truth, and you just don't know who to believe. It's so frustrating.
It
Because
really is,
these
especially when
are
your witness is an FBI agent trained to lie, trained to hide details, trained. You know what I mean?
Well,
It's
no. Let me stop you there because now this is going to go to an argument that I've been making for years now. These people, law enforcement, are human beings. Human beings are made up of emotions, genetics, so on and so forth, where they're capable of making mistakes. Should he have injected his personal bias into his workforce, his job? No. Do people do that? Yes. Do they do that every single day? Yes, they do. As long as you're a human being, you're going to do that. With that being said, and I'm not saying it's right, I'm not because like I said, I've been arguing for years now
no,
that
I agree.
we're investing so much power into these human beings who are susceptible to making human mistakes, and these mistakes are dealing with the lives of other people's. And so, when you mistakenly alter a life, you can't say, "Oh, well, my bad. It's we messed up. We're human too." No, no, absolutely not. The reason I don't condemn this particular instance is because there's a rich white man that's a target now, and the hypocrisy of now all of a sudden that we need reforms with law enforcement when you go back however long and advocacy groups have been arguing these same exact talking points and they just fell on deaf ears. But now all of a sudden, we should sound the alarm, because we're at DEF CON 3. No, not me. Sorry, I refuse.
No, I agree with you. They are human. The only thing that I hold against uh Storshik or whatever the hell his name is in this case is the fact that the things that it would take to prove intent in court are the exact things that they have in the accumulation of all the text messages. You know what I mean? So the collusion intent is there. Now, was the collusion effective? I don't think so, but I think it was just as effective as maybe Russia's attempt at collusion. So if neither one was a valid attempt in swaying the election, all they're doing at this point is wasting time. It's a dog and pony show that has the Republicans saying, look at what he did and skewing the election this way. And you have the Democrats saying, he's innocent. Don't look at him. Thank you for your service. Da 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 da. It was all Russia and Putin and Trump. It's ridiculous. At
Oh,
this point, it's a pure dog and pony show. It's a circus, and it's all about divisiveness. It's all about splitting the party. The midterms are coming up, and it's all about securing your base. Right now, we're enemies. We're cutthroat. We're not trying to be bipartisan or solve any problems. It's ridiculous.
um, Yes, it is. I won't dispute that. You'll find no quarrel with me. But you made a point that I think is the key term in all of this. You say we're coming up on the midterm. There's a time where we must work together, but there's also a time where we have to oppose each other too. And that's just the nature of politics. Politics is a blood sport. Just because me and you get together and we argue uh, fervently over our ideas and the way we see the world, that doesn't mean that if there's a wildfire in your neighborhood and I have 150 feet of extra rope, that I won't come over there and give you that rope of hose. I meant to say, because if I let the fire, you know, burn your house, what's to stop it from coming to mine's next, right? So
Absolutely.
there's a time where we must work together. At the same time, if you want a chain link fence and I want a wooden fence, there's a time where we have to work.
Compromise.
Um, maybe not against each other, but there's a time where we're not going to work together, and that's just life. And I truly understand that. So I guess that helps me not to take the political aspect of our disagreements personal. I see a lot of people are taking these things personal, and their families are being broke apart, lifelong friendships are being broke apart over emotional responses of very every important everyday problems. And it's like, well, if you can't separate your emotion and deal with real world issues, then I fear for whoever lives in your household, right? Um,
I agree, but I think the bigger fear is not necessarily separating their emotions, but separating their identity from their politics.
oh,
Politics now is absolutely who you are, all the way down
yeah.
to the sneakers you buy, the pants you wear. I mean, it's all about portraying an image of this is who I am. You know who I am by what I look like. It's your identity now, which is a sad thing.
Oh,
Regardless of
absolutely.
regardless of what we look like, we all need to be able to express and share our feelings and not be so he doesn't look like me, so he's not on my branch. It's ridiculous.
No, it absolutely is. Identity politics is about as old as the republic. Um,
For sure.
it is like you said, it's this is going to be a base election, and so the goal is for either one of the parties to get to the 51 plus the 50 plus 1 yard line and secure the victory. Therefore, they're not going to employ uh, a broad-based message of peeling off or attracting those that don't necessarily agree with you. And that's where we go wrong every time. Uh, because while you might not change their mind, you they'll always remember the fact that you took the time to listen. I don't know if you've ever been on my page profile, but the right has no greater enemy than me, right? But most of some of my dearest friends are right wing, and even when I 100% disagree with their politics, I can sit and listen to their concerns and their comments and questions, answer and engage with them because it's the simple respect of your fellow man, right? And so I'm not looking at this person with horns and a tail coming growing from behind. That's not what I see. What I see is a concerned citizen who's looking out into their everyday life and they're watching these same events unfold as I am, and they're thinking to themselves, the trajectory course that we are on is currently unsustainable, and we need to change directions. And how do we do that? And for the most part, the right see a lot of problems that's going on in the country today, and they want to address a lot of those problems, and they want to do it in a manner that you know conserve their principles at the same time would attract support from those that might not necessarily agree with them. And I will say that it's harder to be on the right these days than it is on the left because people just it's they're going down that, it's a slippery slope, and they're starting down that dehumanization trajectory course with those on the right. They're saying, "Oh, well, you're a Trump supporter, or you're a righty, you're a Nazi. We shouldn't listen to you. We should knock you out and kill you, and just be lost." Well, on the theory of that, in the moment, that might seem like, oh well, yeah, they're a Trump supporter. They just get what they deserve. But then you got to think about it. The pendulum is going to swing. It doesn't always stay in our corner, right? When it swings back, is that how you would like to be treated? When the right won in November, like, did you really want someone to just put their foot on your neck and do to you what you're championing doing to them? Um, and so yeah, it's a mess out here these days. But
No, it really is, and for it to spread over into a congressional hearing and have it be so blatant to where they can't even get out a sentence without people objection to order or point of order or any of that stuff. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous the amount of consternation that was going on, and it was all over, to me, a dead issue. Something that if they don't have any evidence, and they haven't had any evidence on either side, either way, then what are they spending all these millions of dollars for other than to distract us when we could be solving real issues and having real hearing issues about things like the school shootings that are going on? Because I am right, more right leaning. I believe in total Second Amendment rights, but at the same time, we need a comprehensive background check to where these mentally disturbed people don't get guns. So we need to have that conversation. We need to have uh, the infrastructure problems that are going on in Flint. There are a myriad of other problems that are going on, and instead we're focused on, to me, an issue that, if anything, only proves that Russia didn't do anything. Trump should be in there. There is no case for uh, collusion or to impeach him. And the left, most of them, the far left, they're all inciting violence and warmongering, civil warmongering. They're causing problems domestically, they're not corporations causing problems internationally that we have, but they're causing civil problems where people can't walk down the street wearing a t-shirt or a hat or drive a truck, or you know what I mean, without being vandalized or assaulted. So it's really gotten to a crazy point, and to have it spill out in Congress is just it's just amazing that nobody is willing to look at it for what it is. They all want to look. Fox News looks at it and says, "Oh, we won. We got Trey Gowdy who grilled them. We got this guy who grilled them." Even though we didn't get the answer, do they have any evidence? Because it's an open investigation. We won. The other CNN is saying, "Oh, he nailed it. We thought he was going to come out weak and mild, but he come back firing." Like, it's just a bunch of propaganda, and it's got us all turning tail, dude. It's sickening.
oh,
Real.
absolutely, it absolutely is. And unfortunately, if you don't learn your history, you're bound to repeat it, right? And we are on the cusp of
Sure.
this. Um, there's there's only one other incident that ever happened on the House floor that comes anywhere close to what happened yesterday. And as I'm sure you very well know, it's the Brooks Sumner affair, where Preston Brooks went onto the House floor, and I think it was 48, I believe it was, and physically assaulted a sitting U.S. Senator, Charles Sumner, on the floor of U.S. Congress over slavery. Well, I mean, of course, now politics is a blood sport, and um, so on and so forth. But yesterday, if that wasn't an assault, rhetorical assault, then I don't know what it was. What was? Jesus, the things that they were saying. I don't really have much to say about the point of orders and the parliamentary inquiries and all that stuff. That's just the rule of the Congress. That's how things are done. But
Right.
to talk over your colleague, the disrespect, right? The disrespect. is so uncalled for. It's so counterproductive. It is so, you know, my friend, it's hard. I'm not a cynical person. I try to see the glass as being half full more so than half empty. But in this day that we live in, um, and I've been doing this political stuff for quite some time now, since 2004 at least. Um, I've never seen nothing like it, and it makes you want. It makes you wonder: can we ever bridge this divide? Um, I don't know. I'm sure we will. We've always overcome far greater obstacles than this right here. And that's the resilience of the American people. I have nothing but 100% respect and trust in the American people. My trust in them is marrow deep. Um, but it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot, and it's going to take everyday people like yourself and I,
No,
who
for
have
sure.
differences of opinions, right? But like just think how cordial we've both been in the duration of this, where I'm sure we've said things that the other one disagreed with, but we respect.
Live and existing ideology, which is like, you know,
Hold
our
on.
history. Am I cutting out, Larry?
No, go ahead.
You're not cutting out, but you jumped right in the
No,
middle. So let me
let him go.
let Justin
Let
finish his thought.
let him finish.
Okay, okay.
No,
No,
go
he
ahead.
was on point, man. He was on point.
I was finishing up, man. Go ahead.
All right, go ahead, Matt.
All right, yeah, no, I was just basically saying that we're stuck in a two-party system. He was right about that, you know. And for us to create a third party, we need to keep the debate alive, and that was basically what I was going to say to add on to it. So,
No, I agree. I really it's I'm trying to wrap my head around how we can have such a divide and such a polarizing divide and nobody really realize the real problem. And the real problem is the two establishments and the money
right.
roll that they have and the interest that they have in keeping us misinformed.
Well,
So
I think it goes to show how good of a job they're doing. They control the media. They control the flow. Well, they've controlled the flow of information up until this point. We're taking the bulls by the horns ourselves. But I think the answer's in, you know, the proof is in the pudding, or whatever, however you want to say it. They've pretty much had their hands on the reins the whole time. They've controlled the media. Corporations control the media, and so we're getting spoon fed basically um, lobbyist ideas. So, you know, that's my thought on that.
no,
No,
for sure.
absolutely. I totally agree. I totally agree. There is one point that I will make. You mentioned that we can't get anything done because of the divisiveness and all that good stuff. Um,
Matt, you
and
got an echo.
basically
You want to
blaming
roll
the
your window
problem
up?
of
Yeah, for sure.
the nation
Sorry about that.
on those that are in
Yeah, I'm in
office.
the car doing a podcast. I'm sorry, Larry.
All
Would you
right.
like me to get at you when I'm at a better location?
For sure.
All right, I'll do that. Thanks for the invite, guys. Sorry that it was like this. I'll be
No
back with
problem.
you.
Good input. See you till next time.
All right, brother.
Take care, my friend. Yeah. So it's the American people that are in dereliction of duty. Um, I'm sorry. You working 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, however many hours a day a person works. That's just not a sufficient enough excuse to say, well, the future is just not worth it. I'm tired. I can't wrap my head around that. Um, back home in Charlotte, the school board. I've been on about a 2-year crusade to get more local members of the community involved in the PTA, the school board races, and all that good stuff. Um, the local district attorney races with police law enforcement reform, policing practices. The people got to understand that we've been waiting on Congress and the government for the longest, and the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting a different result. They obviously aren't working with our best interests at heart. They don't give two goddams about us. Therefore, we got to take the initiative to take the power back from the government. And we must centralize it back where it belongs, and that is with the people. Um, there's more of us than it is them, and we can actually change this. We can right the ship of state, the ship of state, if we all come together. And what that's going to entail is, the conservatives are going to have to embrace their victory, accept the fact that they've won, and transition over to legislating, which I doubt they're going to do. And the Democrats are going to have to accept their defeat, accept the fact that they lost, and accept the fact that they still have a duty to legislate and to work on behalf of their constituency. And they've proven time and time again the constituency got to go where there is to it. And until we do that, we're going to continue down this two-party uh, insane course that we're on.
No, I actually agree with you 110%. It's just really sad that the the country was founded as a republic, a constitutional republic, and so many of the senators that sit and are supposed to represent so much of their constituency, which is the country, the people of the country, don't even understand what they're representing. They go in there like it's a democracy, like it's a majority rule, and it's not. It's the reason why the election was so important again this year, not only because Donald Trump won, but it showed us why the presidency is run the way it's run. It's run based on electoral votes, which spread out the votes over the people's choice. It's not a majority rules uh, country. It's never been a majority rules country. So it's sad that they don't realize that. And then, like you said, the bad talking and the slander, the way that the guy was slinging mud about the dude cheating on his wife with a coworker. I mean, it was just so ridiculous. Like that's all you got. Like that, all you can do is sit here and dog the guy. Like he might not be the best moral guy, but he did what he had to do for his job. You know what I mean? Like he did his job. The one thing I'll say is for a guy who hated Trump and wanted to get rid of Trump, and he led the counterintelligence division. He was the assistant deputy director, which is the second highest seat. He had all the information he needed. He could have leaked anything at any time, and he didn't. He upheld his job like he was supposed to do. For all the human mistakes that he made, morally, he did do some of the right things. You know what I mean? His personal life versus his job is two different things. Totally.
Right. And it goes back to the point where these people, and I understand we've vested this power into them to protect and serve. Um, but these are human beings, and human beings have this little, knack of making mistakes. We do that. Lord knows I've made my fair share, and I continue to make my fair share daily. Um,
For sure.
but there's a process um, in which we place our public servants to a higher standard, and we expect more from them. And rightfully so, when they let us down, they must be held accountable. So I'm all for that. He made mistakes. Take him off the investigation. Um, follow protocol. There's procedure in place
No problem with any of that.
to how to handle situations like this. So there are procedures and policies in place. Um, but yes, that hearing was so. It was so, and it's funny though, right? Because shortly, and if they hadn't started now, you'll see all those people that engaged in that hearing yesterday. They'll be on a microphone somewhere calling for civility and things that they're not doing. They'll expect that from us, you know. And while I have no issue with the call for civility, um, I do have issue with hypocrisy. So when Louis Gohmert gets up and tell me, "Oh, well, you should respect, someone you don't disagree with because that's just the way it's done," you know, and then he sat there and I'm quite sure if someone was to go digging, they'd find that he had affairs too. But all he can concern himself with is the affair that took place between the agent and the lawyer.
Not
But
for sure. Or look at Maxine Waters, who is supposed to be of the progressive, loving, caring, welfare giving party, saying if you see a Trump supporter or anybody in the administration, at a gas station or anything, rally up a crowd and harass them. Really? That's what we have Congress people telling citizens to do is rally up and harass people? Like these are, like you said, these are average human beings who have an extraordinary job in a tough position, and we're gonna go around and advocate violence and harassment? That's ridiculous. These are supposed to be public officials at a higher standard.
no, absolutely, absolutely. It's it's
Hypocrisy at its finest.
it in the garage. Why? He came after you. Um, I definitely agree. Um, and it's so bad. It is so bad. It has reached levels of I just don't know. It's just so bad.
It
It,
really is.
it's so
How
man.
to break down the circus? I mean, it's really not much to say about it. It is the spectacle that it is. Everybody knows what it is. The only thing we can sit here and do is hopefully to bring a different perspective on it, our own unique perspective that we're ideologically aligned. You might lean more left, I might lean more right, but in the end, I'd call you a humanitarian before I called you anything else. You know what I
Absolutely,
mean? So
absolutely, absolutely.
it's all about bringing a different perspective to the circus that is going on, that we do have to be aware of, because we can't turn a blind eye to this. But let them know what is going on. This is irrelevant. This is not the Fox News spectacle that it needs to be made into, or it's going to be made into. We need to put this one to bed. We need to let Russia die. We need to let Trump go and do whatever he's going to do as a state leader, the same way that Obama did it, the same way that Bush did it. Because if you look back, we could go back all the way to Reagan and even before that. The policy hasn't changed, only the president has. They've all done the same. You can catch Obama talking just the same as Bush and Clinton and Trump on immigration, on war, on anything. It's all the same. All we have to do is what we're trying to do is bring a different perspective and let them know that there's real other shit out there. We could be talking about the immigration, the kids in cages. Another big fact of the kids in cages is a lot of these are child trafficking, and the parents, supposed parents, bring over here, get caught up, and then when it get time to reunite, they say, "Oh, that kid's not mine." You know what I mean? Yeah, we might have messed up and lost a bunch of kids. The government can do that. Not wouldn't be the first time. But how do you correct the numbers if a lot of people are saying that the kids ain't theirs? It's a crazy situation. We need to really solve real problems instead of be worried about something that happened almost 2 years ago right now. This is almost a 2-year-old issue. Like it's almost being dragged out like Benghazi was, which was a travesty in itself, but by the time they did a hearing on it, it was irrelevant. It's ridiculous.
I totally agree, man. Which is why I left the institutional route and I went directly to the people. Um, You can lobby Congress and hope they listen, or you can lobby your neighbors and ensure they listen, who in turn will lobby their neighbors, who in turn will lobby their neighbors. And before you know it, you have a whole network of reform minded individuals that's picking up the baton and running with it. Um, and I commend you guys at Rally Point. Um, that's always been the focus there, even when it was UP. Um, it was always about getting the people engaged and involved. And from there, the people, the American people will figure it out. We've always have. I believe we will continue to always do so. Might take a little time, but we'll get there. We've always gotten there. Uh, and at the end of the day, as far as the respect and the divisiveness and all of that, um, while it's bad, there's never been a time in the history of this country where hot button issues haven't triggered emotions, and the emotionally weak haven't responded emotionally, and the emotionally strong haven't responded strategically. And we've argued and fought, and we've cried and laughed, and we've opposed each other, and we worked together, and then we joined hand in unison, and we stepped over the finish line together. That's just how we are as a people. We're not going to agree on everything. We're not going to disagree on everything. But when it comes down to the fundamentals, that is, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for not only ourselves, but our family, our friends, our neighbors, and our fellow man. We've always taken the stand up, and helped promote them. I think service to others is a guiding principle in the light of most Americans. And you can say, well, I'm tired, I'm just got off work, I have bills due, whatever the case may be. But the average American, if they see their fellow citizen down bad, it tugs on their heartstrings in a manner that they can't turn their back on them if they can help it. You can't give what you don't have.
No, I
But
agree.
but if you can extend the fortune, and the favor, then by and large we do that. So for everything discouraging that we just spoke of, there is so much positivity that's overlooked
Amazing amount of positivity.
uh, in the media. And so that's why we can fuss and fight the way we do, and when it's required, but then join hands and work together when it's required. Um, and that's why I don't really get hung up too much on the political discourse, because I just understand the nature of it. And in a few days now, something else is going to happen, and that's going to pass. But the guiding principle that the common denominator that link us all together is advancement, social advancement, not just for ourselves, but for all people, all mankind. Not just all Americans, not just all Californians or wherever you are, not just people here in my city or my county, but in this world, and there are actions and measures that we can take now, um, so that when the day come, we're just that much closer to the goal.
No, I agree. And there's so much, the little stuff is what counts. There's things like freerice.com, I believe is the name of the website. You go on there and you answer simple trivia questions, stuff you were answered in middle school, and for each one, it gives like 6 grains of rice. You know what I mean? When you're on the
Yeah.
toilet in the morning, you can play for 10 minutes or however long, get a bunch of rice, and they donate it for free just by you interacting. So I mean, it takes what it, you know what I mean. It takes the effort to find the ways to help out, but there is a ton of ways to help out. I mean, I'll buy stuff for lunch. I paint contractor. I work for myself, so I'll buy lunch for the guys. Whatever's rolls and ham and cheese and mustard or mayonnaise, whatever, and whatever we got left over in the Shaw's bag on the ride home, we'll give to the guy that we see on the corner begging for change. You know what I mean? And he's got 3 or 4 sandwiches left over. It's the little things. It's the little things, like you said. If you can do it, but it's people finding the time and not wasting. Those are the two biggest things. If we can take a little bit of our time and give it to somebody else and do something good, that pays forward way more than 5, 10, $20. And if we can not waste, if we can try to limit the amount of shit that we put into this earth. I mean, the things that we're doing to the sea and everything else, it's just ridiculous. So those are the
No,
two major things.
absolutely, absolutely. It's so much that we can do. Um, I'll say it's incumbent upon those that are active in the movement, and by movement I mean democracy, uh, to just get out and make this world a better place. Um, the trouble didn't start January 20th, 2017. It didn't start January 20th, 2009. It didn't start January 20th, 2001. It didn't start January 20th, 1993. It didn't start January 20th, 89. This has been going on for 50 plus years. 50 years ago, the lobbyists on K Street decided that our voice is more powerful than the citizens on Main Street because we have the 6 and 7 figure checks to cut to the politicians. Therefore, we can get our concerns addressed immediately in the Capitol, and all we got to do is employ an army of lobbyists to go and work on our behalf. Uh, well, the people have to do the same thing all over this country. There are people that are just retired or whatever the case may be, but that are just doing nothing throughout the day. They can form a citizen army of lobbyists to go up to DC and lobby on behalf of the people. They could have an online network that make sure that people voter registration is up to date. Make sure 18-year-olds are registered to vote. Make sure people in states that require voter ID have their IDs and things like that. There are things that we can do collectively outside of hoping and praying that our politicians hear our concerns, uh, in which we can start, moving this country in the path, in the direction that it needs to go. But I think the biggest obstacle to that is those that are perfectly suited for this endeavor um, have simply been um, overshadowed by those that aren't, but they're more vocal. Um, and as a result, those that could actually bring about this change, um, they just don't believe that they possess the qualities that's needed. And I'm quite sure that if someone spoke to young MLK and said, "Hey, Mister Dr. King, what kind of qualities does it take to single-handedly, non-violently change the world?" I'm quite sure there's no manual that he can instruct you other than to be yourself and to not be afraid to ask for help. Um, from there, you start attracting supporters. And once people, especially American people, come to your aid, oh, there's nothing we can't do. It's been tried time and time again to great success.
No, I agree with you, and you hit on upon a couple of things there. Um, to your point in the beginning that it didn't start the last election or the last couple election cycles. I definitely think the Lyndon B. Johnson election was a huge turning point for future presidents all being bought and paid for. I think Kennedy was the last president that tried to move on his own. His election was rigged, getting in there. He absolutely used his father's connections to get in there. But once he got in there and his brother was attorney general, the two of them went renegade and really scared the establishment. But it goes even further back than that. You could say it goes to Woodrow Wilson
Oh,
and
geez.
and the military industrial complex. But it goes further back than that. You could say that it goes to Roosevelt and his SSI, Social Security income, and that. But it goes further back than that. It goes back to the time we were talking about with Preston Brooks. It goes back to that group of guys. It goes back to those guys. What those guys did with the president before Lincoln, who was Andrew Jackson, all the way up into Lincoln. What you had a people's republic who printed their own money. And the problem was the system that they went on before Lincoln was designed to only have a selection of people who pay taxes, who run the government, who do certain things, and those were white men. You couldn't be a free man, you couldn't be a female, you couldn't be any of that. And then what happened was the slaves got freed, Lincoln got killed, and in 71 they created the Corporation of the United States of America. And what that did is it turned not every citizen from it turned every citizen from a sovereign citizen able to have a Wild West duel into collateral property, now state owned by the federal government, and everybody was taxed and everybody was collateral, not just a certain group. If you own the corporation, then you were fine. If you were a Rockefeller, if you were a Carnegie, if you were a Vanderbilt, if you were a Wahlberg, if you were one of those guys, then you were fine. And they had their minions, they had their Bushes, they had those guys to do their dirty work. So those guys were fine too until they stepped out of line and talked about the establishment. But what you really have is you have a long history of a group of people who have a redneck on the country and its monetary system, and it's just a dog and pony show to keep us distracted. Congress doesn't run the monetary system, it's a private group, but every year they fight about the budget. Why? Because it's a joke. It's a joke. It's just another dog and pony show to keep us distracted. Why do we have a deficit? Because we borrow our money on interest, not because we don't trade enough. If you look at the trade numbers, we produce way more than we bring in. How does that economically make any sense? We're a huge producing country. Yes, businesses have left the country, but the revenue and the numbers are still here in the country. You know what I mean? The numbers are not so we go into debt. The problem is whenever we do good because our money is borrowed, we increase our debt. Anytime we increase our money, we increase our debt. Period. It's not inflation, it's devalue of the dollar. Our goods don't cost more, our dollar costs less. That's a huge thing for me. It's ridiculous. A dog and pony show so they can hide the real issues.
No, I totally agree, man. Geez, you
Well, that's when
touched
it
on
really
something
goes
so
back to. Yeah, like I agree. Kennedy was a big election that turned it. All the presidents after him have been bought and paid for. We got a governor cycle coming up here in Maine where I live, and I'm telling you what, man, the primary was like everybody was claiming to be independent, independent, independent. The guy that claimed independent the whole time, last 8 year cycle, this time got the Republican nod and is now vowing to fight legalized marijuana in the state. You know what I mean? As soon as he got in, he got bought. So it's a really sad, sad cycle. You know what I mean? His opponent is Janet Mills. She's the former attorney general. She's probably as establishment as you could get. Her opponent claimed to be independent, and then as soon as he got the nod, he sold out. It's a real. I don't think there are any politicians out there who haven't sold out. I think it's really hard to come by. I think Ross Perot, Rand Paul, not Rand, Ron Paul. I think Rand's got his own establishment ties. You know what I mean? That he keeps connections with. But there are very few. Like you can't say that there are any politicians in the last 100 years who haven't been bought and paid for. I can literally name two, and I don't even think Ross Perot was 100% independent. He had super yachts and all kinds of other shit. So I'm pretty sure Ross was bought and paid for. He just spoke out about the Federal Reserve. That was a cool thing that he did.
Right. Now, one thing people have to understand is the reality of life, right? I just concluded working on a congressional campaign for a Green Party candidate um, who would not accept the reality of. Oh, I shouldn't say that. Okay. we have to we have to accept we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. We're trying to expand upon it. And there's an avenue that, in order to bring about change here in this country, that we must go through, and that is the ballot box. That's the only way you can win, because the goal is to shape public policy, not to hold a conversation. Um, I'm sure people have been talking about immigration and budget and taxes and for the longest now. I'm not sure I know. Um, and little to nothing seems to change because it's not done through the ballot box. Um, it costs money to get into these positions of office to be able to shape public policy. So if you're going to do it, you have to accept that aspect of it. Okay. So now the question is, well, which and you must remember that all money isn't good money, right? So now you have to ask yourself, who do I want funding this campaign, this movement that I'm trying to bring about here? Do I want to bow to the corporate and special interests, or do I want to bow to the grassroots? Um, and if you choose the grassroots, then it's almost a guaranteed um, path to success. And I'll say that because the people will come and join you if you give them something to believe in. If you don't give them anything to believe in, then they're far too busy in their everyday life trying to keep their head above water to even think about what the future might hold, and they don't even, as far as they know, they might not even be here in the future.
I
So
agree with you. I think Bernie was a big example of how a grassroots movement can catch. I think we saw it with the Tea Party, and then you saw it with the Walk on Wall Street. I mean, we've seen little grassroots movements, anti-establishment movements catch and grow. Bernie was definitely the biggest one, but it all culminated because of the elect. You know what I mean? He was the perfect guy, saying the perfect things at the perfect time. The
right,
progressive guy with the almost Trump-like economic policy that got us forward in an election time where he could be polarized. But
right,
at the same time, and Bernie was the perfect example of, if you get too big, the numbers start to get really big. So where do you sell out? How big does the number get? Where do you sell out? And what is the risk? Was Bernie at risk of being suicided? You know what I mean? Like what there I think there was a point, not only did Hillary and the DNC squeeze him out, but I think there was a time where Bernie willfully stepped aside. He saw, I'm being squeezed out. Do I keep fighting? Do I keep saying something, or do I just step aside? And I think there was a time where he got bought and he stepped aside. I definitely think that it's a dual edged sword. You please stay grassroots. Please catch the movement, but you gotta be like you said. There's only few of them. You gotta be the right guy to not sell out. You gotta be the integrity issue is huge, huge.
um yeah, uh, yeah, I definitely agree. You need to be committed to what it is that you're espousing. And you need to focus. You need to have a laser like focus on that. Because, like I said, the people will join you. And as far as the selling out go, I think that's where the people come into play. Um, I think it's incumbent upon the people, but it's incumbent upon the candidate to express to the people that it's incumbent upon them to keep, their elected officials honest. Activism doesn't end or begin the day after election day. It's every day of our life. You got to, because there are so many levels of government. You got your local municipal government that you got to be involved in and hold accountable. You have your state government. You have your federal government. You have it's never ending. It's never ending, which is why I advocate for citizen councils, where in every community there's some little place where the citizenry can gather and share information, discuss information, dissect information, rally around whatever it is that their concerns are, push and promote the agenda of their choosing, and just be involved in the democratic process. Uh, yeah, so it's incumbent upon the people. Because anything else starts dealing with the insanity faction, where
No, I agree.
doing the same thing and expecting a different result.
No, I agree, and it really is we the people that need to keep our politicians honest and stop letting them pass bills without reading them. I can't believe we allowed Nancy Pelosi to say, "Who cares what the Obamacare bill says? Pass it now and read it later." What? How's that even an acceptable answer? Good, bad, or indifferent, we need to read the thing before we sign it. The number one thing they tell you about signing anything, a bill, a contract, make sure you read it first so you're not getting screwed. How are you gonna have the incompetency to tell us don't read it, sign it later? It's those little things. It's ridiculous, man. We could go on for hours and hours and hours, but if me and you don't go on for hours and hours and hours and keep people honest, how are we supposed to affect real change? We have to do this, like you said, on a daily basis. Post memes, do do whatever you can to try to get your message across. And it might not touch everybody, but if you can get one person thinking or moving on a problem that they weren't thinking about or moving on yesterday, then at least you're getting a ball rolling. That's all it's
Absolutely,
about.
absolutely. That's all that matters. And people are going to come and join you. They might not take the initiative to get the ball going, but once they see the ball going, they're coming.
Oh, we're definitely a copycat
Oh yeah.
people.
Oh,
Copycat in every aspect of life.
oh yes, we are. Yes, we
I'm
are.
telling you. All
Yes,
we
we.
gotta do is see that it's successful and people aren't against it.
It,
If people aren't against it, then we'll accept change.
oh
We
yes, we
just
will.
have to we just have to make sure we're not gonna get screwed in the end. And the cool thing is there are a great amount of people out there who are trying to do grassroots news, grassroots information,
Oh,
whatever you want to call it. They're trying to get out there and spread the word with a real perspective. So it's just amazing. I definitely, I was one of those guys that was like educating myself, understanding, what to jump on and where to jump. Went and did some activism in Flint, and then came back and jumped into the podcasting and this kind of stuff. So it's just like you said. I met Harsh Med. Uh, I seen his ball rolling, and I was like, that's an awesome thing. Let me contribute to that. You know what I mean? Let me be a part of that in some type of way where we can get a different demographic in here and talk with a different group of perspectives, and it's really great. The amount of people doing it right now is huge, and
and it's only
hopefully
going to grow.
more get in.
Yeah, it's only going to grow, man. It's
Right,
only going to. I remember when it was just harsh,
right.
and it's totally grown from there. So just stay dedicated. stay up to date, stay consistent, and be yourself. Most
For
important.
sure.
Let I mean we I can almost assure you that I won't agree with anything. Just I might disagree with about 80% of the stuff that you're going to say, but I will respect, the fact that you took the initiative to have the conversation, the fact that you even care, period, because so many people could care less, and so many people do care, but they're like, oh, I just don't have the time, or I'm not the right fit, or there's some excuse that's stopping them. But you're saying, you know what? If not me, who? And if not now, when? Let's get the ball going. And that's what.
I hear I get so many people who say, "Oh, I can't talk like that. I can't talk like you." But all you got to do is get in there and talk like you. You don't got to
Do.
get on there and talk like me.
Get
Talk
in,
like
get
you,
right. Get on there and open up your heart and mind. That's all you have to do, my friend.
for real.
And you're gonna enjoy yourself. You're gonna meet so many wonderful people.
It has
So
been
many,
so enjoyable.
yeah, so many not so wonderful people. But that's the process. That's the American spirit. That's the American fabric. It's the intricate, you know, wounds and grooves and rivets that just creates that beautiful masterpiece of a finished product when it comes to the American way of life. Um, and it's been unrivaled by the world. It's the envy of the world. But it took a lot to get there. A lot of lives were laid down for us to have the opportunity that we have today to sit here and complain and criticize about those that are in leadership. Um,
Openly.
a lot
At
of
one time, we would have been killed for this.
oh,
Our founding fathers were put on a chopping. Their names were put on the list for their heads to be put on chopping blocks when they signed the Constitution and the Declaration. They were
absolutely,
not. They were not doing this sitting back comfortably with their feet kicked back up. They
right,
had to watch and be
absolutely,
protected, and it was a real risk. And you nailed it. There was greater implications than just themselves, and every single one of them down the line risked everything
oh,
so that we could talk. Oh, and they knew that every man was created equal, so that we could openly talk and have inherent rights, so that we could discourse about corrupt and tyrannical government. That is exactly what we are founded upon. So
absolutely.
it's huge. It's absolutely huge. It's amazing that we have this ability, and it's crazy that they were so thoughtful in what they wrote that regardless of the technology, the language translates. It doesn't matter what medium you use. The rights are inherently there. You're allowed to do what you're allowed to do. It's so sad that we lost our sovereignty.
No,
Really is.
it's very sad. It but there's a breath of hope. There's a glimmer of hope, breath of fresh air, and that's people like yourself and Harsh and Steve
And you.
and Xavier and all the rest of you that take the initiative to go out into your everyday life, into your network, and say, hey, if I can just get one yes, it'll make all the no's worthwhile.
For
And
sure.
and that's what life is all about. That's what they taught us in insurance school. It takes one yes to make all those no's that you've heard in life worthwhile. Um, and so in your, on your path that you're going to journey now, you're going to have fun. You're going to be disappointed, upset, angry, frustrated, joyful, happy. You're, but at the end of the day, you'll sleep so much better knowing that you tried. And when your grandchildren ask you, years down the line, what did you do when X, Y, or Z? You'll have the luxury of not being able to say, "Oh, I did. I was too busy, or I had to work, or I had to go to school, or I had children to raise, or I had to cook dinner." No, you'll say, "I made time and I got involved," and that's all we can do. And at the end of the day, we come up short. That's all. Well, guess what? We tried, and that's truly all that really matters. And then
No, honestly.
the next generation, when they come around and pick up the baton, they'll take it further than we did, and that's just how we are, as human beings.
No, it's a beautiful thing. When I was in Flint, there was a guy there, Rick from Pennsylvania. and he had his 10-year-old son there, and he was the kid was dropping off water and running back and forth for his father, and his father was his father's a unique guy, but his father's the type of guy that had him doing a intellectual project. He was there so that he could go back and tell his class about what was going on, and you know what I mean. So it's a real special guy. A
Yeah.
real unique and really cool family. But it just speaks to what you're talking about. It's passing it down to the next generation. It's standing on your morals, walking the walk, not just talking the talk, but standing on what you believe in and acting on it, and teaching the next generation to do the same and hold themselves higher than where you held yourself. Because I want my kids to think that they're better than I am. You know what I mean? They're obviously all the same. They're not gonna go around thinking they're better than anybody else. But I want them to think that they can accomplish 1,000 times more the things that I ever did, and I want them to think that they're so they it's just the right way to teach your kids, and you nailed it, man. You gotta pass that. You gotta pass that on. You gotta act. You can't. I can't just tell my kids what to do. My kids will turn the age where they look at me and they're like, "Man, all you do is talk, but what have you done, dude?
Right.
Shut up."
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what life is all about. Um, Making the world a better place than when you leave than when you arrived. Um, and laying the foundation for a legacy through your children and their children and your descendants um, that will withstand the test of time. I don't want to be known for someone that just lived life concerned about what he could get out of life. Um, I want, my life, my legacy to be um, that I dedicated my life serving others. Those that don't necessarily look like me, that don't necessarily act like me, that don't necessarily speak like me, people that don't dress like me, but they're like me, they're people. And they deserve some basic God given rights that I do. I do. And if I sit back and allow their rights to be infringed and encroached upon, who's going to be there to defend mine when the time comes? Because the time is going to come. And so that's the focus that I'm guiding my life towards. And so far, so good. Um, like I said, you know, some days are going to be better than others. Some days are going to be worse than others. But that's just the nature of what it is that we have to do here. Not what we want to do or what we need to do or what we're trying to do. This is what we have to do. Because I don't think another generation will come along if we don't get this thing together now. Um, Geez. You mentioned about the prospect of civil war, and I never really talk about that too much but I realize burying your head in the sand doesn't make the issue go away. Um, and I can very well see, a path in which this country descends into civil war. The question would be what would distinguish the two sides, or if there will only be two sides, it might be more. I don't know how it would go. Um, but there's so much time between now and then, and so many people that can do so much amazing work to prevent that from happening if we take the initiative now. And we take all of our flaws, all of our shortcomings, and get started. You know, and have the delayed starts, make the rookie mistakes. Yes, it's on the job training. Who amongst us have led a social movement before? I don't know too many. So there's going to be on the job mistakes, and false starts, but that's just that's the beauty of it all, right? We get to see where we erred, and we get to expand upon the areas that we got right.
Yeah, I concur. Um, where I would fit in, where I would
You there,
come into
man?
that is, so, go ahead.
I don't think that was any of us. Might be catching some feedback from something.
Oh,
Am I coming in clear?
Yeah.
All right.
Go ahead. What was you gonna say?
oh no, I was
Um,
just simply
go ahead.
saying that it is incumbent upon us to initiate the change that we want to see in this world.
Well, and you're right.
And you can't just continue to sit back and expect others to have your worldview and to work to bring about the change that you want to see. You just got to grab the bull by the horns and go with it.
No, for sure. And like you were saying before, like which one of
That's the
us have ever
beauty of
led
it
a
all,
social movement before? You know, so this is where it starts. This is how a social movement starts. I mean, some social movements have started in bars and
Can
taverns,
you?
and
Am I still audible?
Oh yeah.
yes, I hear you.
Oh, you can hear. Okay, all right, yeah.
I hear you. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but yeah, man. I'm well. I'm not a. I'm actually should be getting up, getting ready for work shortly. Um, so I'm gonna have to let you go, man. But
Nah,
it's
it
been
was
a
good
pleasure.
having you. I really appreciated the discourse and the insight and the knowledge. You're definitely a good conversational person to have get down and discuss this circus that we're all involved in.
Absolutely, man. It's always a pleasure of mine to converse with the water protector. Um, you guys are some
And
exceptional people. It doesn't.
yeah,
Not everybody could say, "Hey, my drinking water is quite, well. So let me go and help somebody else who isn't." I grew up on well water. So not having good fresh cold water was not something we really worried about too much. And
yeah.
then when the
No, it's
whole Standing Rock Flint crisis went down, that was so absurd to me, that people didn't have adequate water. And just to go to show you how far I've come and how much further I have to go, the first thing
which
out of
we
my mouth, when I found out about the Flint water crisis was, well, they should have got up and voted. They let Rick Snyder and the Republican legislature get in charge up there, and hey, you just got what they deserve. Um, until I started seeing the footage coming out of Flint and started seeing the water that these people were paying for and expected to drink.
right.
It blew my South Carolinian mind so far out of the realm of reality. I just, man, jeez, it still
Not
shames me to
not
this day that
something
I somehow was
not
led to
some
believe that,
not something to
because
expect
I
in
had,
modern times.
fresh drinking water at the tap whenever I went to turn it, that everyone else did.
Yeah.
Um,
No, absolutely.
it's a learning process, man. Um, and I I do, appreciate you guys, for bringing
I appreciate you.
that knowledge to our
So
attention, because so many of us, and those of us that are involved, right? So many of us had no idea that that was taking place. Remember, Standing Rock had been going on for months before the media had finally caught hold to it.
oh,
And the
of
media only
course.
got involved because they were sicking dogs and water cannons on the water protectors out there. And the
Well,
media love anything violent, dealing with the police
that
force. Oh yes, they love it, and they jump on it
that
like a duck on a June bug. But
well
so when
that
we
and
did
and I think
get the
the
images
people
and the
got
footage,
involved
all
as
we saw
well.
was the police brutality aspect of it. We didn't see what was actually taking place with American citizens. That these people were
Right.
paying water bills for lead tainted water. Uh, um, and told, well, the general fund has been exhausted. We'll have to appropriate another budget and try again next year. I
The
can't
the
imagine
EPA the
what it
EPA
must be
down there
like
totally ignored it.
to hear
You
something
know,
like that. I
totally
just
ignored the
can't.
issue. So
Nah, for
yeah, the
sure. Yeah,
EP.
travesty all the way around.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, man. Oh yes. And then with all this, and they're saying that there's other pipelines. Excuse me, other tainted water supplies for other localities and
All
all that
throughout the
good.
country.
Well,
Major
there are
city.
other pipelines as
Oh
well.
yeah. Oh yeah. It's
There's one in Canada going up right now. There's
it's just one
the
big.
same people from Standing Rock
It's a mess, man.
are
It's a
going
mess,
to
but I don't
move
want to
onto
depress
their
myself
land.
before I got to
Am
go
I
to
being
college.
heard?
So I'm gonna let you go, man. You know, I can talk
All right.
politics all day if time.
You have a good one, brother.
You take care, my friend, and definitely look forward to doing more of these in the future with you.
I'll definitely be in touch.
Alrighty, one love, my man.
One love. Have a good one.
That's what's up. Yeah, there's still a protest going on in not the same Standing Rock protesters are actually moving up to, I believe it's Canada or on the border of the United States and Canada, and they're claiming land that is actually theirs. They're moving into that land and trying to build tiny homes. I believe that if you look up tiny homes, Standing Rock tiny homes, it should pop up. And that's their way of protesting now. You know, they don't want to be, they don't want that stigma of polluting the area that like they did at Standing Rock. So because that's
Standing
one of
Rock,
the,
tiny houses.
yeah. Do you see anything new
Building,
popping up?
building tiny homes to defend against oil.
Exactly. Exactly. A new pipeline. This is actually a new pipeline. They've since completed the Standing Rock pipeline, just so people know.
Yep.
But yeah, definitely they have a new pipeline set into motion. I believe it's in Canada. What's going on, kiddo?
Did you guys hit all the marshmallows and the
I didn't.
crackers?
I didn't. Maybe mom.
Absolutely crazy that this stuff is still going on without the media coverage. It's just ridiculous.
Well, and like your last guest was saying,
I am going to post this in the link.
the media coverage does not come until after the social coverage and until after we're out there screaming, So, when he was talking about the media coverage before, I really wanted to get that point across. The media don't come until it's advantageous for them, so they can put their spin on it. So,
absolutely,
yes,
it's a travesty how the mainstream media is controlled and how it spreads its propaganda, and the mass majority of people don't catch what the algorithm of their propaganda is. It's not hard to catch. It's really not.
Right. No, I think that people do catch it. I just think that people feel helpless to do anything about it. And, these are the first steps, I believe, because these debates that we're able to have, or these discussions that we're able to have on camera, people have been having at colleges for, hundreds of years. So to bring a platform that has since been withheld from a lot of people, and we're allowed to bring that to the forefront, which is general discussion, critical thinking, So, once you bring those things out and you have the masses participating in them, you're gonna see results. And it's not it's not a physical revolution as much as it is an ideological revolution. I try to get that point across so much. I'm not by any means trying to fight guns with our government. I'm just trying to fight idea with idea. And I think that's the best way to go, and that's going to win more hearts. So that's my thought on that.
And just with your introduction here, leader of the critical thinking page, I want to get your perspective. I don't know how much of it you've watched. I'm sure you've seen some of the highlights of the circus that went on yesterday, but what is your perspective on the whole situation that is going on with the congressional hearing?
Circus is the best thing you said. I mean, it's really just a fingerprint at this point, isn't it?
Realistically.
Yeah, I mean, so I just look at it as semantics right now. It's been from the beginning of the, and No, I'm no supporter of Trump. I mean, like, you know, I want to make that clear. Do I like some of his policies? Of course. Do I hate some of his policies? Of course. But I will say that from the beginning of his presidency, it's been you know, a Russia scandal. It's been a prostitute scandal, not a prostitute, but a porn star scandal. It's been just one after another. So for me, coming from a common sense point of view,
Genocide in Israel.
oh man, yeah, for sure. That's the major. You know, those are that's the things that I'm against them. You know, I'm against them on. So I mean, there's things that, you know, I definitely don't support Trump in, and there are some of the most crucial areas. I'll be honest with you. But at the end of the day, like I was saying, I just think that it's all partisan right now. This is all partisan politics. This is it's not about the truth. It's about what side is better, and unfortunately, that's what we're seeing. Say that again. I'm sorry.
The midterm. It's all about looking and securing
you
your image for the midterm election.
Absolutely. That's what the pump is about. Exactly. That's when everybody seems to give a shit, right?
Well, yeah, no, and like you said, it's all finger pointing, it's all semantics. It's right now it's gesturing back to the congressional hearing. It's all finger pointing. It's saying you had Trump collude with Russia. That's what the Dems are saying, and the Republicans are saying no, Hillary colluded with the FBI to throw the election. And right now,
and the Democrat and Debbie Wasserman Schultz and the Democratic National Committee. I mean,
Bernie.
You know, it's really just a bunch of crooked motherfuckers pointing the fingers at each other. So you know, I cannot sit here and condone either side. I really just.
Circus. It was really shameful the way they attacked him for and disgraced his wife, pulled his wife into it because the dude had a extramarital affair. I mean, it just really got
getting dirty
and disgraceful for a congressional hearing. It was ridiculous.
Right. Not professional in the least, you know, and also something that, you know, I don't feel comfortable as an American being represented by these people, you know, to the world, you know. So it's like, you know, we have to live with the fact that our mascots are clowns. You know, it's a douche and a turd sandwich, you know. Seriously, I mean, this shit is not far off, man. So unfortunately, we live in fucking South Park.
Very, very accurate analysis. It's just sad. I couldn't think of a better name for this show other than Breaking Down the Circus. It's a parody unto itself. I can't believe these guys are real and not actors. Are you telling me that this is reality? These guys aren't actors doing a parody? Like, come on.
Well, and what backstabbers, you know? Like, what, you know, 1 minute that, like, I don't know how many people Trump fired, you know, and so it's like one minute you get a group of people who are all stroking each other, and then you get another, and then you get the same exact group of people pointing the finger at each other. So it's just a really, really weird situation. Like I said, it's an odd. I haven't seen America in this state ever in my lifetime. You know, and I don't know where it's going, to be frank. You know, I like to predict shit, but this is kind of weird. You know, I don't know where Trump's taking it. He's you know, I do want to say one thing. I condemn completely locking up children in any form, any manner. So I condemn that. I mean, there's things
out there. That's a real issue that we should be having a hearing on, not fucking a 2-year-old election that has nothing to do with either collusion or government interference.
There you go. So I mean, that's an issue I'd rather discuss all day. You know. You know, and like you said, the genocide happening in Palestine. I mean, that's just atrocious. It's not happening anywhere else in the world. And I'd like anybody to challenge me on that. That there is no type of occupation happening anywhere in the world that's being allowed, being televised. There's no systematic displacement of people anywhere other than Palestine in the world. There's no destruction of livelihood such as water supplies in any place in the world other than Palestine. I mean, now and mind you, I said systematic. Now, are there places where that those things are happening? Absolutely, but not by a government, not by an army. Not by a global power that acknowledges they have nuclear weapons. Well, actually, they don't acknowledge they have nuclear weapons, but they don't deny it either.
If you read
And
between the lines, he does by
yeah,
saying, "I'll let them,
he
attack, and
said,
then hear our response." He's saying,
well,
"I
what he
got him. I'm
said,
not showing him first."
what Benjamin Netanyahu said is that it's our policy not to be the first ones ever to disclose our nuclear program. So in other words, somebody else has to figure it out and find it out, and good luck to them without being assassinated, to be frank. So there's, they're blatant terrorists. I believe the Zionist regime is a blatant terrorist. They termed coined the term terrorism. They with a Shin Bet, I believe it was. I mean, do your research into the Shin Bet. And basically, what they did was they went into Palestine. They committed terrorist operations, then blamed it on the Palestinians, and used that as pretense to go into war with these people, or just to push land in on these people. So it's all documented. That's the thing. When the shit I'm saying is not speculation. I'm not sitting here on a going, oh, this is what I believe they did, man. No, this is what the fuck is written down. This is what actually is documented by ex Shin Bet, whatever you would call them, alumni, fucking
Agent.
whatever they are, huh?
Agents. It's a Shin Bet
Agents?
is a Shin Bet is a Israeli secret intelligence service.
All right, now, like,
Israeli security agency.
okay, see, so it'd be like national security for the United States, pretty much. I mean,
Right, the
yeah.
NSA.
Right. I don't know, man. It's just that I believe that Israeli policies hurt us, the Zionist policies hurt us, as a country. And I mean, there's a lot of other policies out there that hurt us too. I'm not just pointing my finger at them. I'm not hating one side. I mean, we as a country, and I don't like the nationalism type thing, because nationalism leads to what's that? Fascism. Exactly. So I'm not trying. I don't believe in that nationalism type shit, but I do believe in taking care of your family, taking care of the people that you call yours, whether they be of any ethnicity. I don't give a shit, man. If they're American,
right.
they're American,
And
I'm taking care of.
I do support pride in your land and where you come from, but at the same time, you have to.
Well, I spread that same pride to the world. I'm as proud of the world as I am of America.
Right. Yeah, you have to respect those boundaries there. You can't delude what one means over the other. Yeah.
I agree. I'm not going to go to my neighbor's lawn and go, this is a free country, and just stomp all over his garden. I'm not going to do that.
My neighbor the same as I respect the individual on the other side of the earth.
Right. It's the same thing. My border from here to my neighbor's house is the same as my border from America to Mexico. It's no middle finger to him. It's just a respect line. It's a respect line. Hopefully we can both respect it. I think with the immigration problem, and not to jump around too much, but with the immigration problem, I think the thing would be to better the situation over there to make it so people don't want to leave, instead of, not helping the situation and keeping the problem the same, so.
Again, not the immigration I wanted to hit on too, because there's an underlying issue there that not a lot of people talk about. I know that we've hit on it before, but the underlying issue is with the immigrants, the illegal ones, and giving them amnesty and this and that and the other. The problem is the immediate influx in tax-paying citizens. That's the problem. Is you're gonna skew the system that's already created against us. You're gonna
Right.
offset it even more against us. It's not a
Right.
problem. And this is the I watched a thing the other day. A guy talked really well about the immigration issue. There's a difference between all our ancestors are immigrants and the immigrant problem now. The
Right.
ancestor immigrants were hardworking people. The Irish came over here during the 1800s and the potato famine to work, to feed themselves, to become American. The Italians came over here to become American. There was hard times. They came over here to adapt to the American dream, to work, to prosper. It was the Jews, the Spanish, you know what I mean? The Europeans, the Asians, they all came over here with the intent to be American.
I
Now you
agree.
have people coming over here to live off of the
Refusing to assimilate.
welfare. Well, you have them coming over here nowadays to live off the welfare of the state, whatever state they get into, and then they come here and implement their Sharia law.
Right.
I can list off a
And not
bunch of people.
necessarily just Sharia law, but I
No,
mean,
absolutely not.
it's any race that refuses to assimilate to our not necessarily cultures, because I mean I'm for keeping a culture, but to
Right.
assimilate to our laws, like you said, law is the
Yeah,
basic principle of
for sure. But
keeping things in line. So
I can name multiple people who are from different ethnicities who say that, and they're older gentlemen, but they say that their parents made them speak and act American outside of the house. You didn't speak Spanish. You didn't speak, you know what I mean? Whatever,
well,
French or whatever outside of the
I've
house.
always told you that if I was to go to France, I wouldn't go over there expecting them to speak English to me. I'm gonna learn a little bit of French. I'm gonna be courtesy, and I'm gonna speak
Learn how to
French.
read
So
them and learn how to talk.
I'm if I move over there, for sure. For
Right,
sure.
right.
I want to be employed. I mean, but even if I'm going to visit there, I'm going to learn basic, like,
Communication.
hi, how are you doing? Where's the bathroom? Stuff like that. So it's
Right.
out of courtesy. I wouldn't go over there expecting everybody to speak English. That's absurd, And so I definitely hear your point on that. And you know, the whole Tower of Babel, the world is becoming one, and we do already have a global language. English is already a kind of a global language. Spanish is right up there. Arabic
We're
is
going
up
back to
there. I mean,
hieroglyphics. Everybody and their stickers and emojis and this and that and the other. We're going back to
we're back.
hieroglyphics.
No, you're absolutely right, Larry. I remember you talking about that at one point. Yeah, we're using emojis now. We're right back to the beginning. So it is about symbolism, and to be honest, that brings full circle that we're all one. I mean, we're all the same. I mean, if you take a family in, Pakistan or in Indonesia, or they're talking about the same topics that concern them at the same capacity. Their local issues, or and they're talking about it with the same.
Their domestic issues, right?
They're talking about it with the same passion, and they have as much desire to solve the problem as we do, if they're enlightened to that degree. There's unfortunately there are people that don't even know they're in a problem. They don't even know they're in the matrix. So for those guys, all we can do is try to wake them up as we go along. But for the people that are awake, I mean, this is a global thing. I mean, we're all finding out that we're through YouTube, through different means, we're finding out that we're very similar. We're not very different at all. I mean, even food, we're all related through food, through writing, through language. I mean, we use French words in our everyday English language. We use words of Spanish words in our everyday English language. I mean, we're united, and whether we like it or not. So, yeah, I have a border. I don't want somebody to come on it without my permission, but it doesn't mean I don't want somebody to come on it. It doesn't mean I don't want to have friends come over. It doesn't mean I don't want it doesn't mean I don't want to talk to my neighbor ever again, so it's those simple things that I think the world needs to grasp, yeah, we don't want, what kind of a nation are you if you don't protect your borders? And if you don't have any borders, you're not a nation at all. So I do agree with borders. I think we're all one family, and and we need to learn to embrace each other instead of push each other away, So,
No, I
but
couldn't
that's,
agree
that's
more.
all I could say, brother. Yeah,
Yeah, no, hey, and what a better note to end on, for real.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
we're all one. We all need to reach out and do instead of just talk, and
Right,
spread it on to the next generation. That's what it's all
right.
about. So, with a quote from our man Marcus Aurelius, stop talking about being a better man, be one. And with that, we sign out. Peace from Maine.